Hello. Once again, good afternoon. This is Elizabeth from Elizabeth Image Branding. So yes, I'm back with another episode of Dare to Bear series, and I'm your host and moderator. My name is Elizabeth Ho, founder and CEO of Elizabeth Image Branding, an image consulting firm where we help men and women to discover their true authentic self and empowering them to communicate that authenticity through their appearance, presence with courage and influence. So thank you once again for joining us live today. Today is a very special day as I have with me a very special gentleman. He is a motivational speaker, actively involved in youth leadership training, a much sought after speaker, and above all, he is special because he has in many ways ran his race, both literally in competitive races, as well as ran his race in life and emerged as a champion and overcomer. And let us welcome Mr. Daniel Lee. All right,
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for saying yes to this session. The first time I heard about you was from my dear friend Juwita Suito. So
Yeah.
he was one of our guest speaker. During our interview, and after the session we had some catching up, and I said, Joetta, do you know anyone that really can inspire many of us who are so hopeless? During that time was during MCO, and she said, you know what, I have. Immediately she just mentioned your name, and I said, and after that, our conversation, I Google about you, and I said, yes, I must get you on live with me. So Daniel, let's tell a little bit about yourself to the audience today.
Yep. Well, my name is Daniel. I'm based in KL currently. I think a lot of people know me maybe because of the condition that I have. I have a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. It is a very scientific name for brittle bones, and what that means is that I break bones easily. And
okay.
I've broken my bones so many times I stopped walking at the age of around 3. And from there, I really pretty much grew up like a typical child, going through challenges, but with the added challenge of having a physical disability. But now I am currently a motivational speaker. I am an athlete, despite all odds. I'm currently training I'm currently training with the aim to qualify for the Tokyo Paralympic Games in wheelchair racing.
Amazing. Tell us a little bit about your condition when when you were young. So from the age of 2, when you start walking, and you just, whenever you fall, you break your bones, or with every movement you experience this condition, or fracture.
So I was born with type 1 osteogenesis imperfecta, or we call it OI in short. And that basically means that I have the mildest form of the condition. Okay. So in many ways, I would consider myself very fortunate, very blessed. But it did run in the family. So my grandfather had it, my father had it, and then I and my 2 sisters have it. And I basically grew up breaking bones as far as I could remember. In fact, I never really had a memory of myself walking as a child. I could only see pictures, and then I saw myself standing, and that was how I knew I at least walked for a period of time when I was young.
Do you experience pain, Daniel?
It is basically the same as anyone breaking their bones. So anyone who has had a fracture, it would feel the same. It's just that for me and for people like me, it breaks much easier. So when I was a child, because I have the mildest form of it, I would break from basic falls, so just tripping or whatnot. And over time, sometimes even the act of trying to stand up would snap the bone.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So okay, throughout your growing up, were you kind of like being protected by your parents, like, oh no, don't walk, or in trying to prevent you from another incidence of fracture?
I think a lot of it is prevention. It is a lot of prevention, but it was really hard for my parents to control me because I was so active. Even when I couldn't walk or stand, I would be able to kneel, and I will kneel and jump on my on my knees, and then I break my thigh, my femur.
So
And
in and out of
yeah,
the hospital is very common to you then.
on a like on a very good year where I behave myself very well, I would break my bones at least 2 or 3 times a year
Oh
if I
dear.
behave myself very well.
Very well.
So
That is very well.
yeah, so
What
I'm
about
not like being naughty and whatnot.
what about your sisters? Are they also at the moment wheelchair bound?
They are not. So I would probably credit all those to my naughtiness and my activeness as a child. Boys being boys.
Yeah.
My two sisters have broken bones before, but I think when they break a bone, they quickly learn their lesson and then not do it again. But for me, as a kid who is super active, I would break a leg 1 2 months later after I'm out of the cast. I will do something again. I will break my leg again, and it,
Yeah.
it affects the whole body. But a lot of the fractures happen on the leg because the body weight is
Yes.
on the leg. Yeah.
Right. Right. All right. Thank you for sharing about your condition with us. Let's see who has joined us. Yes, Jessica. Jessica, thank you for joining us. And we have Jessie as well. Yes, Jessie. Hi, Daniel and
Hi.
Elizabeth. Thank you.
Hi,
And
Jesse. Hi, Jessica.
yeah, and Janice. Janice. Yes, yes,
Hello.
Janice. Janice, Daniel is an athlete. So, Daniel, let's come back to some of the questions that when I first heard about you, I immediately, my mind was filled with questions. How can one with so much limitation and handicap in many ways compared to, fully able people like us, but yet emerge so victorious? So, I have so much question, especially during that time, during MCO, many of us has been facing a hopelessness, right? So, but before we dive in there, I tell us about your experience with racing and all this competition. When did you first start, develop the passion of, joining competition and start racing? And what prompted you to do that?
If I were to start like all the way from the beginning, I think I started that when I was maybe 12 years old, 13 years old, when I was on my wheelchair and on speed against my parents' wheels in school. So with my wheelchair and whatnot, I would not tell them. But I think I started actually going to sports much later in life. I
Mm,
started only in 2012 after I've graduated from college. So
mm,
after I've done everything, and I finally at this point of time, I was still using my old wheelchair, which is something that is slightly better than a hospital chair, but still very heavy and bulky. And I've done
mm,
my best using that wheelchair for all sorts of stuff during my college years. But it was during that time when a group of people from a church in KL, from
mm.
Acts Church, they wanted to blessed me with a new wheelchair for Christmas. And
Oh, okay.
they asked me, what kind of chair would you like? And I thought to myself, maybe, is it too much to ask for a sports wheelchair? And that was the beginning of it when finally I got a sports wheelchair for Christmas. And I thought to myself, I've always wanted to try out marathon running and
Mm,
on a wheelchair because at that point in time, I realized that there are a lot of things that we probably can learn from marathon running that
mm,
can be applied to life. And I
mm.
wanted to inspire people with my life. And I thought to myself, this itself, I could learn a lot from sports, from marathon running itself, and I can apply that to life and also help people with it. And actually, so that was how I started. I started really just joining a 10 km run in 2012. My
Mhm.
first 10 km run, it was standard chartered run. I finished 10 km in 1 hour 6 minutes, and I nearly died in the sense I cramps. My head was spinning. I never knew you could do that. Um, but after that, I wanted to challenge myself, and I trained better. And the next 10 km I did it in 45 minutes. And I
Amazing.
really started off just wanting to inspire. And what got me into racing was, along the way, I joined in some non-professional wheelchair races.
Mhm.
And from there, I started winning. I never thought I would win against other athletes, and at that point of time, I wouldn't consider myself an athlete. And I started winning over and over again, and that really got me thinking about maybe I should really pursue this seriously. And because of that, it was only because of that, I actually asked around in terms of people who are in sports and friends who are athletes. Do you know anyone who's doing wheelchair racing in Malaysia? And everyone told me no, no one is doing it. Some coaches and whatnot told me just choose another sport, and that's why I sort of never really pursued it seriously. And I actually tried out sitting volleyball, and I played for Malaysia in the Asian Youth Games 2013 first. So I started with a different sport. But my heart was always been in racing, and I thought my talent was there. And that's why 3 years ago, I actually resigned from my full-time job to pursue this seriously, no matter what the cost is. Even though there's no racing coaches in Malaysia, no racing team, no program, no budget whatsoever, I decided I would do it.
I see. But when you were sharing, your story just now, it baffles me. Have there at any moment or at any time that you feel that life is unfair, and that you struggle with all this condition and spiral down into depression? Have you been through that, and how did you overcome that? Yeah,
I would credit a lot of my ability to overcome this to my parents. I think when I was young, I've always been assured that I have value, that despite my limitations, I can still be successful in life, and that you don't give excuses to yourself. So of course, as a kid, there's always that thought that comes by, why am I like this? Why is it that other children could do that? But I think in general, for me, probably because of the nurturing of the parents that I have, and also my outlook in life, I don't stay very long over there with that kind of mindset. In fact, I've always been the kind of kid who would find my way to do, the things that I want to do. So I would, I remember when it was in standard 5. Was it standard 5? Yeah, I think about standard 5, standard 6. So about 11, 12 years old. I wanted to learn music, specifically the Malay instrument, the kompang, right? And so, but the music class is 3 floors up. And so one day I was thinking, I am used to be able to push myself upstairs. So I would sit on one step and I'll sit on another step, and that's how I usually go upstairs. But I wondered to myself, what if I could pull the wheelchair one step at a time as I go up? So I tried it. I pull up 2 steps, and I realized if I can pull up the 2 steps and climb up the 2 steps with my wheelchair, then I can repeat that until I get to the 3rd floor. And that was how I learned that actually I can climb upstairs by just crawling and pulling my wheelchair up. So how I overcome challenges like that is really just wanting to do what I want to do, and I find a way to do it.
So are you saying that, being so stubborn as a child actually pays off? That, your stubbornness just pushes you, to break?
I guess you could call that stubbornness. I just wanted to have fun in that sense. So I wanted to do something that I like, and I was figuring out basically problem solving, basically finding a way to do it.
Oh, amazing. Let's see who has just joined us. Yes, Edmund. Oh, I'm not sure why the font is so small. Hi, thank you for joining us, Edmund. And Jessica said, heard so much about you, Daniel. Yes, and today I hope that you will get to know more about Daniel. And this is another dear friend, Jia Yu, for everything. And Edmund, yes, life is indeed a marathon with the end, and so many years away. Yes, coming back to that, in one of our questions is that have you have you felt, or have you experienced especially during school days, being bullied because you're different from the rest, especially, among kids, and how do you handle that as you were growing up? Because I do know some that may be, joining us today that have children that are different and special, yeah, from the rest of the children in school. And how do you overcome being bullied, or, overcome this notion that, yeah, I'm different, and being different means bad,
Well, I remember when I was 7 years old, my family and I went out for dinner, and my mom was carrying me in her arms. And just for a backstory, I stopped walking around the age of 3, but I haven't, I only got a wheelchair at the age of 10 because my parents could not afford it. So everywhere I went, my mom would carry me in her arms. And I was around 7 years old, standard one. We went for dinner, and my mom was carrying me as usual in and out. And I remembered one of the kid, from the kid of a hawker stall owner, was laughing at me, because he was, laughing. Look at that boy, he's so big, and mom is still carrying him. And yeah, I remember going back. I probably cried, I think, but even on the spot, I think my father reassured me, don't listen to that. Don't listen to what people say about you. What they can say, whatever they want, but it doesn't change the fact that you are smart. You are able to do a lot more things. You can still be successful. So I think I credit a lot of it to my parents' assurance. Because I can talk about how I overcome it mentally right now, right? What kind of techniques and what kind of perspective I have in mind. But it would not happen if I've never had parents or people who nurtured me, who always reassured me of my value. So I think really what you can do is reassure your child, reassure whoever that you have that you love, who may have a disability or who is different, that they have value, that they can contribute to the world in different ways, that they are still a human being, that you love them. And that builds a good foundation that leads to the child themselves being able to find their own ways of overcoming what it feels like to be different.
I think this is very important. The self-esteem of any child, whether is able or disabled, really comes from the parents and the foundation of faith, that we have.
Yep.
And really, and very often when we see all this, that overcome life difficulties, you can actually trace back to really strong and kind of like powerful parents that, defy all odds. Having children that are different or disabled, they really brace, the hopeless situation during that time. And yet, with whatever they have, they inspire their children. So I think parents, we need to really, inspire and encourage and show our children that they are different, yes, but different in a very special way. And they can,
And if I may add on to that, because I really see that as the foundation of it. And then after that, you have to still find your own ways to overcome it. For me, I got a lot of assurance as a child from my parents, and therefore I knew not to believe in lies like that, right? And then it was later in life that I found my own faith. So I found my own faith in Christianity, and the rest of my family are not Christians. So the one thing that my parents have always taught me is to have responsibility and to make your own choices. So my dad has always, because I grew up in a Malay school, I'm like the only Chinese boy in the whole school except for my sister, and so my dad has always had that kind of conversation when I was young, that you should make your own choices. Because at that point in time, my dad was a Buddhist, and he said, we casually, like during lunch or dinner, casually talk about, well, my dad would say, if I die one day, don't worry about trying to pray for me and put my ashes in the grave. Just throw me in the sea and whatnot. If you want to be a Muslim, go ahead. Because all my friends were Malays at the time, and so my dad said, if you want to be a Muslim, go ahead. and don't worry about praying for me or whatnot. And so I think for me, it's all about personal choices. And for me, I think later on in life, I found my faith in Christianity, and that itself, I think spiritual strength helps a lot in giving your life meaning and purpose, and therefore knowing that we are all created different by God.
Now, along this line that you just mentioned, living our life to really fulfill our purpose and meaning. Today's title is Defining Your Finishing Line. In many ways, we are running a race. Like just now, one of our audience, Mr. Amantan said, life is a marathon. And in many ways, I do agree that we are running a race. Now, can you share with us how or perhaps when? First thing is, when did you see that the race that you are in worth the race? Okay, worth the race. First thing, and what is the end that you see that kind of like sparked you and motivated you to continue this race in life? Okay.
I think that itself is such a big question, right? It's a question that everyone asks in, what is the meaning of life? And it's always, it's almost like the mystery of the universe right now that people are trying to look for, and a lot of people can't really find the answer. And so I can't say that I have the answer. I can at least share my own experience in that and how I find my own purpose. I talk about finding my faith and then a spiritual journey, but really it is about asking that question early on. For me, as a kid, I've always, I remember as young as 10 years old, I've always asked about what is the meaning of life, who is God, and why am I here on earth for. My parents were Buddhists at some point in time. I sat in Islam class for 6 years in school because moral classes are upstairs. And so I'm always staying down. I could write and read Jawi for a period of time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. From standard 3 to form 3, I was in Islam class. And then it was later on I met Christian friends and all those. So whatever your faith is, your religion is, I think it is about asking that question early on. And so I asked that question, why am I here, ever since I was young? And I kept searching. And I think there's no formula of finding your purpose. I would say that my experience that I asked it early on. And so because I kept searching, and I think I found it a bit early. And I still, I have a good idea of what my purpose is. I would say, what's my purpose in life? It is to use my life as a way to make an impact in the world, to touch somebody else's life. And that is really a big picture. And everything else, we have to take it one step at a time. And really, I will share an experience of mine in one of the runs I've done. Back in 2013, I did a 100 km ultra marathon with 2 other friends. They are both able-bodied runners, Alex and Kyle. And we organized this run called the Extra Mile Day, to raise funds for the Dignity for Children Foundation. And so I'm the only one doing the run on a wheelchair. And we basically, long story short, was that we completed 100 km in 17 hours, and we raised about 168,000 ringgit for the Dignity for Children Foundation. And to me, I looking back, I realized that if at the starting line, if I'm at the starting line and that day, and from the starting line, I look straight, and there was just a straight road, 100 km stretch, and there's a gigantic sign saying finish line. If I could see the finish line at the beginning, I think I would not have been able to finish it. And the reason being is that the challenge would seem too big. I would be going straight non-stop for 10 hours and still see the finish line being very far away. So I would always advise people to always have the end in mind, but focus on your next step after that. Because if you want to know how I how we did 100 km in 17 hours, I'll give you the formula. It's pretty simple. The formula was we run 3 to 5 km and then you rest for 5 minutes. Nothing less, nothing more. In that 5 minutes, you eat, you drink, you rest. And then continue 3 to 5 km, 5 minutes break, and repeat till you finish 100 km. And that's the formula. And I realized this when I started. Okay, I was very excited for the 100 km. Okay, we're gonna raise this money for the child, for the children and whatnot. But after the 50th km, after the 60th km, all I was thinking was just when is my next 5 minutes break, and that was what I was thinking at that point in time. I wasn't thinking about the 100 km anymore. It's all lost, But I was just focusing on the next step. And so I would say always have the bigger picture in mind, have the end in mind. But after that, sometimes all we need to do is just focus on the next step and make sure that as we go on the next step, are we still aligned with the finishing line?
Just now, Daniel, just now you said that, what helped you in finding your finishing line was asking questions at a very young age. You started that. So Edmund is asking, what are some of the questions you encourage your listeners to ask?
Maybe the most basic questions you can start off is, what makes me satisfied, in life? What can I do that makes me satisfied? Or some people go with a simpler question of what makes you happy. I think there is a deception sometimes with what makes you happy, because a lot of things makes us happy that is not necessarily good for us. But what makes us contented in life? And when you start searching for that, I think over time you may be able to see where your purpose lies. Because once you ask that question, the next question you should ask is, how can I then make a difference in the world, or with the people around me? Start with something small. How can I make a difference in the lives of the people around me? Because I think that really the purpose in life should be just beyond just ourselves. So when people ask me what's the meaning in life, I can't answer it for them, but for me, a purpose in life should be more than just about myself. So if I look at, my purpose in life is to be rich for no other reason other than my own, comfort, then I don't think that is a per se a purpose in life. And a lot of people actually experience that as well. They chase after what makes them happy, so it can be material things and whatnot. But later on, when they have all those things, they find themselves feeling empty and satisfied, right? And that's why you see a lot of older people actually only start doing a lot of charity work and all when they have retired, when they have a lot more time. Then they say, okay, I think I really want to do something more. But I think what really is interesting about people nowadays, that I see this kind of desire to have meaning and to make a difference in the world, even in younger people.
Yeah.
So some people may criticize and say, "Oh, all these young people talk about all these things, all these things."
So idealistic, right? So idealistic.
Yeah. But I think it is a good thing that we should see in young people, and that they, I've seen more young people who would be willing to quit their full-time job to work in an NGO more than, and understandably so, because in our parents' time, in our grandparents' time, it's all about survival. It's all about giving a better life for our children. And so the young people nowadays, we are living in a good day and age where we have the option of not just worry about our survival, but really finding meaning in what we do.
Yeah. All right. Let us take a break and see what our audience is saying. Yeah, Edmund, thank you for being so active, Edmund. Taking a break is important. Yes, I also echo with this statement. Whether you are in an actual race of a marathon, or 10 km race, or half marathon race, taking break is important, as well as even in the race in our life.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need just to pause a while and press the brake pedal and say, okay, let me take a break. And very often during our break, you will find yourself refocus, and refresh. and recharge. That is very important. Yes, Janice says 100 km in 17 hours, run 3 to 5 km, rest 5 minutes, repeat and repeat again. Yes, that's exactly what he did. Okay, yeah, and it's amazing, right? I mean, for able people like us, we are so worried and so anxious about running a marathon, like let alone 100K. Yeah, I don't find many able people will dare to take the challenge for the 100K. And this is also one of the reasons why I invited Daniel today, is to actually share with us and inspire us how, and why he do what he does. Mabel, that's a great advice. Have the end in mind and focus on the next step. Yes, and Edmund, once again, he said personal value lies in benefiting others. Now, along the line of what Mr. Edmund says, it actually still baffles me. Making a difference, this statement, making a difference, comes from you. Okay, let me be blunt, because of all the people, I always feel that disabled people are the last person, or the last group of people will think of others because of their unfortunate circumstances that they are in. And so my question to you is that what makes you, in whatever that you're going through, even think of others?
Well, I think that may be a perception, right? Because if you see a person who is facing a difficult challenge, generally you assume that the person would think of themselves, which I think in many cases are true. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was selfless since I was young, but I think it is about overcoming, having those challenges and overcoming those challenges allows us to now think of others, because we have gone through the kind of hurt and the pain and the challenges. I think we have a bit more empathy, and this does not apply only to people with disabilities. It's really, if you see anyone who has been hurt before, who has gone through pain in life, you will realize that they have a little bit more empathy than others.
Yeah.
And I think it's just us being humans. And I wouldn't say that, oh, I'm special because I think of others because of my situation. I think it is very natural for humans to empathize with one another, and that if we have gone through pain, we understand the pain of others, and therefore we want to do something about it.
Okay. Yeah. This leads me to my next question. You seems to be, you founded, Push to Inspire, right?
Yeah.
Right. Tell us a little bit about, even this name. How do you come up with this name, Push to Inspire? And where, on a more personal note, where does inspiration comes from to you?
Well, I'll start with how I came up with that name. I think it was around maybe 2012 when I just really started doing marathon running, right? Started doing runs, and at that point in time, I said I did it, number one, to challenge myself to do something that I like, but also to inspire others. And therefore, I wanted a platform where I can share my story. And so I was trying to look for a domain name, a .com, whatever.com. And if you've tried getting a .com, a domain name, you would realize probably how hard it is to get a name that is unique, right? So I thought of all sorts of names, the kind of names that is so ridiculous you think nobody would take it, and it's always taken for some reason. So it's like, perfectly imperfect, imperfectly perfect, and whatever wheelchair, whatever, all this kind of .com, it's always taken.
Okay.
Right? And people would it's a business where people actually sell the domains, they release the domain name.
Yeah, it's so sad.
And so I thought to myself, and I think that's why I wouldn't credit this too much to myself. I always say, I will share with my friends, I believe it's God inspired in a sense, because when I wasn't really trying to come up with a name, and they just pop into my head when I wasn't trying. When I was trying really hard, nothing came about that was working. But when I wasn't trying, then Push to Inspire came about, because I told myself, hey, I literally push my wheelchair to inspire people. So how about push to inspire? Then everything, .com, .org, .net, everything was available.
Okay.
Like right now, if you Google push to inspire, chances are you would find me. And I think now there's a .org where it is an organization, a non-profit that is related to running and wheelchair. So it's great. But I was fortunate that I got that name much earlier. But it really comes from the belief that everyone can push beyond their perceived limitations and the challenges to fulfill our God-given potential. And when we fulfill our God-given potential, we inspire others to do the same. And so I think that is true for a lot of us. We are more inspired to chase after our own dreams when we see somebody else, also chase after their dreams. Some people are maybe a bit more special. They are inspired without any kind of external factor. But a lot of us are really inspired when we hear stories of people chasing their dreams, overcoming challenges. So I would say, where does inspiration come from? I think for my own, I can't speak for people. My inspiration comes from the fact that I want to make a difference in the world, because I believe that is what God has made me to do, to make a difference, and that inspires me to work a little bit harder, to live a bit differently, to overcome challenges when it's still, when I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'll think to myself, this suffering has meaning, this pain, these challenges have meaning, and so that meaning could be to be used to help somebody else in the future.
What are some of
your inspiration can be from anywhere else? Yeah.
Right. Just now you mentioned, you really push yourself to make a difference in this world. What are some of the, difference that you hope to see, and you really put effort into trying to make that a difference?
I think there are so many things, to list down, right? But if I were to just summarize it, it's probably, the kind of difference I want to make is to give my best so that I can be the best that I can be. And from there, I would inspire somebody else to be the best that they can be. Because I can't do everything. As much as I can, I do. So I will be involved in different initiatives and whatnot. But ever since I was young, I never really had a particular cause. Some people are a bit more passionate towards women's rights, some people children's rights, some people refugee welfare. I think for me, I'm still searching for that specific cause in that sense. But really, I've always been aspiring to just be the best that I can be, to fulfill my potential. And with that, hopefully somebody else sees that, and they too would want to be the best lawyer that they can be, the best doctor that they can be, the best father they could be, the best brother they could be. So I believe that is how one person's story can change the world.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Now, I also, from what I've learned about you is that you are actively involved in youth activities and a youth leadership program. Would you mind sharing with us and the audience today? What are some of the activities that you have been involved in among the youth?
I have. So back in the day, a few years ago, I was working for a company called Leaderonomics, and I was in charge of youth leadership development, and I specifically was in charge of youth leadership camps. So I spent a lot of time nurturing youth to be leaders, because I've never had that kind of nurturing. So I have parents who, my parents who have nurtured me and reassuring my value. But I think when I was in school, I've always wanted to be a prefect or a class monitor or even a librarian, right? Something with a position. But I was never really given a chance. And a lot of times it's because the teachers would tell me, it's okay, but then I don't think it's suitable for you because you can't really move around, so you can't be a prefect or whatever. So I never really held any leadership role. ever, when I was young. My first leadership role was actually in college. So, and that was because I was introduced to the Christian fellowship in our college. And from there, the president of the Christian fellowship, she really saw something in me that a lot of people probably never really saw. And even I couldn't see it myself at the time. I didn't think of myself as a leader whatsoever. But she really believed in me, and she nurtured me, she pushed me, she challenged me, and really reassured me that I could do something. And from there, I started taking on a small group facilitator role, and then after that, bigger roles, and then became the vice president. And then later on, I'm very involved in leadership development. And so I think sometimes it's really about building that, putting your faith in someone when they may not even have faith in themselves. And that's why I've been passionate about leadership development. I was in Leaderomics, in youth leadership camps. I do sports leadership activities at times for underprivileged communities from time to time through Christian bodies. And so I've always had a passion to nurture young leaders.
What are the messages that you want to convey to the young people to encourage them during this difficult time? Especially right now, because I do know a lot of young people that, they don't see a future even after graduating from the college because of, the economic crisis right now, and that people are losing job and are not hiring. Things seems very hopeless right now and very gloom, all right? So what are some of the messages that you have to encourage them?
Believe that you have value in life. A lot of people would want to convince you otherwise. Some people would not believe in your capabilities. Some people may even say things like, go kill yourself, on the internet, right? But believe that you have value in life and that your life makes a difference. And from there, you take it one step at a time. There is always hope. And hopelessness come, a lot of times it's starting with ourselves. A lot of times we start losing hope in our own lives. We convince ourselves that we may not have value, that maybe the world would be a better place if we are not around. But it's all those is not true. And if we start believing that we have value, that we are made for a purpose, I think that is where it starts, where it will guide us to the next step. Because really, a lot of times we are just confused, and that's true even for older people. People are 60, 70 years old and still don't know what they and that's okay. But as long as you believe that your life has worth and that you can make a difference, however small, you should continue believing, continue making a difference, however small it is. No difference is too small to make. And really, an added thing is just practice more love, because in this day and age with the internet going around, a lot of negativity can go about, a lot of toxicity can go about. So if we start to empathize with people a little bit better, if we listen to each other, if we show each other a bit more love, I think the world will be a better place.
Totally agree with that. Okay, let us take a break first. All right. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Jessica said totally agree. All right. If you're watching us now, can you please encourage myself and Daniel as well and give us more love? Okay. There's a button there. There's a love.
The Korean love.
Yeah, the Korean love. You just press the love so that we know that you are listening to us and you're loving us, loving what we are doing. All right, and loving, encouraging us to make a difference. Now, Daniel, just now you mentioned in your message to all the young people, my next question would be, is there any practical steps or is there any anything that the young people can do right now or can join, because I understand that support group is the most important. Sometimes you can have all the knowledge here, all the theory here that, I have value, I need to be positive, but yet lacking the support group, which I would, know that you will totally agree with that, because among your group, you have this support group that pushes you forward, right?
Yep.
Amidst of whatever that is in your mind. So to all the young people that are watching and also listening, is there any practical things that they can do, or any organization or any support group they can join, so that they can also jump into the bandwagon of, the people with like-minded, same focus, doing and pursuing to make a difference?
With this modern era, everything is so easy to look out for,
Yeah.
right? I think it really depends on your area of passion and what, when we talk about surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, then it really depends on what your mind is like, right? And so there's no one particular group that is the best group, because I may be a bit inclined more towards leadership, but some people may be inclined towards entrepreneurship. And sometimes those groups can overlap, but sometimes they don't. And so I would say go based on your passion, on the kind of difference you want to make, the interest that you have. Make sure that those are people who are positive, who can be critical for your benefit, right? Who be honest to you and challenge you for your growth, but also similar in vision. So people, I can't think of every organization. I would recommend, like even the previous company I was working for a few years ago, Leaderonomics. They are a great group of people who are passionate for youth leadership development, among other things. And so having been involved in a family like that, a group of facilitators. So I trained facilitators previously. So they go through our camps as participants, and later on we train them as facilitators. So that became a support for them. It could be your church, your religious group. It could be that. It could be simple things. If you're interested in public speaking and whatnot, things like Toastmasters and the different Rotary clubs and DO clubs and whatnot can be beneficial to you.
Okay, I would like to especially mention what Jessie says here. She said, well said. Nowadays, the young people think that they have to be an influencer or someone who is already successful in order for us to have value. What is your take on this?
Interestingly, just yesterday night, I was attending a Zoom call with an organization called Opis Malaysia. And they invited people like Azura Zainal, TV host, and Jeannie Boy, and Catherine, who is a youth advocate. And the topic was, what does it mean to be an influencer? And it tackles certain questions like young people wanting to be YouTubers and whatnot. And my take on it is that we have to understand why we want to be an influencer. What are we actually influencing? Really, because if you want to be an influencer because you want to have many fans, you want to have a big following, numbers on Instagram and whatnot, and that is the only motivation, then you may find, I can't say that you can't find happiness. You probably be happy with the numbers for a period of time until you find it feeling empty. And so really for young people, if you think, I have nothing against influencers, and nobody actually really know what that means. There's so many definitions of what an influencer means, right? Is it just a number of following, or does it mean that if you influence one person, you're an influencer?
Yeah.
But if you look at the point from the point that whatever that we do has an impact on somebody else, we have influence, we have an impact. We can, in a sense, maybe not in the official marketing term, but we are technically influencers. And so I would say find out the purpose. Why? If you want to be a internet sensation or whatnot, why do you want to do that? Is that just for the numbers, or is there something that you're doing that is fulfilling a purpose that you want to have? And so I'm a person who is driven by purpose. Everything that I do has to fulfill the purpose in the bigger picture, in the long run. Of course, I do things for fun, but really, at the end of it, if having a clear purpose or meaning in life helps me make decisions much easier. So it helps me look at two things that might be relatively good. Both are quite good, but how do I choose, right? And then I compare that to the bigger purpose, and I realize, oh yeah, for example, I speak in public, no problem. So I've spoken to more than 1,000 people at one go and whatnot. But I've always had a challenge with speaking on video on my own. So like, with how people like to do vlogs or YouTube videos, right? And I find myself, it's really hard for me to do that because, and a lot of young people, it comes naturally. So that is really a skill set that they have that I don't have, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been weird that I'm speaking alone. Like speaking to you right now on video is easy.
It's okay.
I find it really hard if I were to hold my camera and, hi guys,
hi guys, this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
That
But I am learning to do that. I am learning, maybe not in the vlog style or whatever. I still haven't decided the direction, but I want to challenge myself to grow in this area because I know that if I am able to use this medium, this platform, I'm able to reach more people than I could if I speak to 1,000 people a day for 30 days. I get 30,000 versus one video that can impact hundreds and millions of people at one go. And so the reason why I want to go into eventually maybe YouTube or whatever social media platform that may be is really so that I can achieve the purpose of making a difference. And with that, probably I will not be as affected by, say, the numbers and whatnot. I'm not just chasing a number. So start with thinking about why do you want to do it.
Okay. Yeah. So Jessie said, thanks for sharing. Yeah. Recently, I have the opportunity to go live with a YouTuber, a very famous YouTuber, and we were talking about influencer, also the same topic like what we talk about. And very often, I also post this statement for many of her followers to think: are you an influencer or are you an entertainer? Because many of the people started their YouTube channel. Basically, it's like in what in Malaysian terms called shok sendiri. You make your own things, that kind of thing. But it is very important to know, like what Daniel said, what is your purpose of creating all this? What is the end that you want to meet, and what are the impacts that you want to make, among your audience? And are you influencing people through what you say and through all your videos? Yeah. So there is a very clear difference, a very clear difference between an influencer and entertainer. Many people in a YouTube can be entertainer because it's so easy to make a video up and then you post it up. But are any of your videos impacting people and making a difference in their life, first thing, in the community and in the world at large? Yeah. So this is what I have in mind. All right. I also want to bring this up, okay, for Daniel to share with us. So this is happening end of the month, this month, 27th of June. It is conducted by Daniel himself. The event is called Sharing Your Hero's Journey. So Daniel, you want to tell us about this event? Because what happened is Elizabeth Image Branding, on that particular Saturday, we cancel all our events and we are attending your session.
Wow, thank you so much. I didn't expect that, but yeah. Well, so this is an online workshop about personal storytelling. One is the hero of their own life story, right? And I believe everyone has a story to tell, and we have to learn. I think it would be great for us to learn how to tell that story effectively, right? And so I'll be conducting an online workshop on personal storytelling. And I've always been fascinated by, superheroes and movie heroes and whatnot. So I'm actually using a storytelling structure by Joseph Campbell called The Hero's Journey. And I'll be using that as one of the tools to just look into our journey and how can we share our story more effectively. Because I believe everyone has a story to tell. Some people, after my talk, after I've done the talk, people come up to me and say, "Wow, Daniel, your life story is so inspiring." But I came from a decent family. I don't have a story to tell. I don't think I can make a difference. I don't think that is true. I think no matter what our life experiences is, that those life experiences can be used to make an impact, right? A person who has never failed a subject in school can never comfort a person who just failed and say, "It's all right, bro. It's just an F," right? And so really, this workshop, what we'll be doing is that we will teach, we'll be going through some lessons on how we can share our story effectively. And for those who may not think that they have a story, from that session, hopefully you'll be able to find some things in your life that you see as a valuable, yes, experience to share. And so if you feel that you have a story to tell, or even if you may not know what that story is, I will encourage you to come join us here in this workshop, that we can learn together, we will journey together, so that we can share our hero's journey.
I am excited. Daniel, you want to tell us how to register for this session?
Yes. And so what I think I can do is that I will give you the link that you can attach to this video later, so that they can sign up. But alternatively, you can go onto Instagram or Facebook and search for my social media handle, Push to Inspire. So you can see the name down there, Push to Inspire. If you look for Push to Inspire on Instagram, you look for Push to Inspire on Facebook, you will be able to see this exact post there with a link to sign up. And I'll also send to you, Elizabeth, the link so that you can attach it to this video after this.
All right. All right. Yeah. So before we end, I know time is running so fast. Is there any last encouragement or last inspiration for all that are watching now, and also later on when they come and rewatch our video again? Is there anything that you want to really leave to them?
Sure. I think it's been the situation around the world has been tough lately.
Yes.
And everything from the pandemic to racism and a lot of things that is happening, not just overseas, but in Malaysia and other countries all around, it can be overwhelming. And I think we just need to love each other a little bit more, to love ourselves a little bit more, love people a little bit more, because I've seen a lot of debates going around, a lot of arguments going around, friends turn on each other because of a different opinion. If we learn to just show a little bit more love to one another, and sometimes to ourselves, not to be too harsh on ourselves, I think that is what we need in this world right now. And if you feel that just everything that's overwhelming you right now, all those things that's overwhelming you and it's a bit too much, take a pause, take a break, like you say, right?
Yes.
And regroup, regather your thoughts, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. I think it's in this day and age where everything is about growing, and I'm all into growing. I'm all into challenging yourself and growing as a person. We also need a pause from time to time.
Correct.
Yeah. So show some love to yourself and to the people around you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for really spending the time with us today. And for those of you who are inspired in many ways and want to continue to follow Daniel, you can actually, follow his social media. Once again, Push to Inspire. You can find him on Instagram, on Facebook.
Facebook as well, yeah.
Yeah, Facebook as well. So yes, continue to be updated with what he is doing, and also see how you can also be inspired through his activities in doing, in planning the things that you can do in your community as well. So once again, Also, I hope that you will continue to follow Elizabeth Image Branding, where we will come out with videos and interviews with different people, even some styling tips, if you want, and you can find it all on Elizabeth Image Branding Facebook as well as YouTube. All right. So once again, Daniel, thank you so much. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really hope that my next trip to KL, we can meet up.
For sure, yes.
Okay, and see how we can collaborate to really come together and make a bigger impact in the world. Okay,
yep.
So once again, everyone, thank you for joining us on Elizabeth Image Branding for this series called Dare to Bear. So we will see you next week again. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah. See you.